Welcome to a casual conversation episode 3. I know I said last episode that I was hoping I could have a guest on, but we had a Zoom call and we did the whole conversation, and it was actually a pretty fun episode, but I didn't record any of it. So since I didn't record any, I have zero footage. So sorry for that. I gotta figure out how to get better at this stuff. But it was a fun episode. I talked with my friend Romello. I didn't know he recently came back from the hospital, so I didn't know how comfortable he would be with talking about what happened. But he was pretty open. He has to have a catheter because something is wrong with his urethra. He's had problems peeing in the past. So he went to the hospital. They didn't know what was wrong with him. So they were looking at his diet, and he drank a lot of sweet tea, so he was switching to water. A lot of water, which is really good. You should always stay hydrated out there. So, and then everything seemed to be fine, but he went to the hospital recently because it was really hurting, and he found out his urethra, like something in there was like shrinking, and that wasn't very good. It was like hurting, so he has to have a catheter for a little bit. So we're gonna have to record the episode again in another time. But I've thought of this improv game we could play. I have another idea for an episode coming up with my girlfriend about a movie we recently watched, so that should be fun. That's coming up. But today I wanted to do a NBA update corner. So recently on Instagram, they like to do these updates. So right now I'm looking at a page called Size Up NBA on Instagram. So I'm going to go to them and I'm going to do a little bit of an update because they do updates pretty often. So the last update they did was a 10-page Instagram post of updates. So the first one is about Andre Drummond. So Andre Drummond, he is a really good rebounder, and he's a big guy. Like, not only he's like 6'11", he's also a pretty beefy dude, a pretty strong guy. He's a really good rebounder, knows where to go, but the Pistons traded him because they didn't feel like he contributed to winning, or they just didn't want the direction they were going with. They realized he's been with them for like a long time, so they had to change something up. So he got traded to the Cavaliers, and now they have. But for some reason they traded in the James Harden trade. The Nets traded Karis LeVert, Rodion Kuruc, Taurean Prince, that's his name, and Jarrett Allen. That Jarrett Allen, that was a big loss for them. He was their defensive anchor. He was holding it down because DeAndre Jordan is too old. So that is no good. So they're relying on Jeff Green, who has had a bunch of ups and downs. He's been good in the playoffs. He's been good. Then he was in Utah. He was very inconsistent. Then he was in Houston as like a small ball center. But now he is on the net. He's on the Nets. He's been actually pretty good, but I don't know how I don't know what's gonna happen in the playoffs. He could completely fall off. He could shoot really bad. He could not have a good defensive impact. I remember back in the 2018 finals, when they were facing the Warriors for like the fourth year in a row, that there was some people. I remember I was watching the starters, and they were like debating if Jeff Green should be starting over Kevin Love, who they had traded for in like the 2014-15 offseason to be their third guy. They were really debating on whether Ty Lue should try to switch it up and start Jeff Green over Kevin Love. So he's been a really good guy. He was in OKC. They traded him for Perkins, who was a big body guy. He could rebound. He went to the Celtics. He didn't really help them. He kind of, because he is kind of a ball stopper. I think that's one reason why he hasn't really worked out with some teams. He went to the Wizards. He went to the Grizzlies, on the Nets, the Rockets, Jazz. When they got him and Ed Davis, I thought that could be a really good, cheap backcourt to back up Favors and Gobert when they got him in like 2018-19. So they lost Jarrett Allen, and now the Cavs, they realized what they have. They have a younger, more defensive-minded center for this era. Andre Drummond isn't that good of a defensive guy, so it's either as a 5, you either have to be able to shoot or you have to be able to defend, and so Andre Drummond can't do any of those at a elite level, and rebounding has kind of been a lost art. If you have a guard who can rebound, then you really have something. But a big that his only skill is rebounding, it's not good. So the update is the Raptors and Cavs have engaged in trade talks around Andre Drummond, and then like the next 3 posts are about Andre Drummond. So the Nets and Mavs would have interest in Drummond through a buyout, and then the Celtics, Clippers, Hornets, and Knicks have also been listed as potential suitors for Andre Drummond. So I'm going to talk about the trade rumors first. So the Raptors, when they lost Serge and Marc Gasol, when they lost Gasol and Ibaka, they were losing their main 2 glue guys who really helped them in that championship. Gasol came in. He was a good floor spacer. He was good at distributing the ball for a 5. They moved Serge Ibaka to the 5 spot as well. He played like a backup. He played the 4. Sometimes he was a good 3-and-D guy. He was like the first player to have like 500 threes and 500 blocks or something like that. So they lost him to the Clippers and Gasol to the Lakers. So their starting 5 spot was thin. So they got Aaron Baines. Shout out to the Aaron Baines fan club on Twitter. That's hilarious. That picture of like Baines blocking Michael Jordan or something, dunking on him. Oh my goodness. It's just hilarious. But Baines, he came into the Suns. He was a good floor spacer. He, for some reason, was in like most improved talks, which I always see most improved talks as like young guys. I don't know why, because I guess it's that notion where it's like as an old player or a veteran, it's like you are what you are, I guess. So I guess as like an old guy, it's perceived that you can't really improve much in like your 10th season when you're in your prime. So then they signed Aaron Baines, and they also signed Alex Len. Alex Len, he ended up getting cut. And so they've had some major issues with the 5. They've been playing OG Anunoby at the 5 position. OG Anunoby has really stepped up. I think he could even be in conversations for most improved, honestly. He's had a couple of 30-point games. He's been big defensively. He's really helped them. So trading for Drummond would really help them out in the in their big guy department. Bring Baines off the bench, bring him in for shooting. Andre is the post threat. And you got Siakam, who's been shooting threes now, a little bit disappointing this season, but you bring him in. But one thing a lot of people have been talking about is that the Raptors would be trading too much, because when Drummond got traded initially, they traded Drummond for like John Henson, Brandon Knight in like 1 second. So, but sorry, I dropped my phone. But the issue is the Raptors would be selling on too much, because to make the salary work, because he opted into his salary, his like fourth or whatever, he opted into his contract. I don't know much about contract stuff, but to make the salaries work, they would have to trade like Norman Powell and Aaron Baines, who could be a good backup for them, and they just think that that's too much, because you would have to trade like those two guys and maybe another young person, maybe like, or not young person, a young up-and-coming guy who's on like a rookie contract like Matt Thomas. They wouldn't trade Chris Boucher. That would be that'd be like, it's like Van Vliet, OG, Siakam, and Chris Boucher, who would really be untouchables for them, because Boucher has come out and he has been that big guy that they need after Alex Len wasn't very impactful as they thought he would be. So they have to trade maybe like to make the salaries work. I've seen it's like Aaron Baines, Norman Powell, and maybe like Matt Thomas or Terrence Davis, one of their young guards. And a lot of people say that's too much for what he has been traded for in the past. But there's a lot of buts here. But I also think it might be worth it, because Andre Drummond has been a all-star in the past. But through a buyout, that's another option. If they can't find a deal for Drummond and they want him off the books, they could do a buyout. After the trade, whatever has ended, it could go into buyout season, and so the Nets, they really need him. They need a big guy, because for some reason they traded Jared Allen, for whatever reason. Like the Rockets didn't even like need him. The Rockets didn't even need Jared Allen. The Cavs really finessed. They got Taurean Prince, who is a pretty good defensive wing, can hit a couple threes. And they traded Dante Exum in like a second. So they really finessed that. And the Mavs, they've kind of needed another big guy. Porzingis hasn't really been that threat down low, because he's more of like a small forward and like a 7'3" body. He's tall, so he's a good rim protector, but he really doesn't have much paint presence. And Dwight Powell, he's been injured. Maxi Kleber has been good, but he's kind of more of a bench guy. So the Mavs might need Andre Drummond, so they'd be interested in a buyout. But it also says the Celtics, Clippers, Hornets, and Knicks would also be listed as potential suitors. Celtics, they kind of, for some reason, they need a big guy, even though they have Daniel Tice and Tristan Thompson. They want another big guy. The Clippers, I don't think they need him. They already have Ivica Zubac, and they also got Serge. They need a point guard. They need someone to come in and distribute the ball. Reggie Jackson hasn't really been that. Lou Williams is more of an ISO guy, and he's taken a dip this season. And Patrick Beverly is a is a defensive guy. They traded Landry Shamet, who apparently was a point guard when he was in college and high school, but they played him as a 2 and sometimes a 3 for his shooting. He was more of an off-ball guy. So they traded him when we got Luke Kennard, who hasn't been very impactful, hasn't lived up to like the $17 million contract he signed, and hasn't been playing a whole lot. The Hornets, I think they need I was going to say a younger big guy, but Cody Zeller isn't even that. He isn't even that old. I think they just need a more impactful center. They got PJ Washington, who looked good last year, but hasn't done much this year. The Knicks, I don't think they need him. Because if they got him, they just put him in front of Mitchell Robinson. And Mitchell Robinson has been, he is a very efficient field goal shooter near the basket. He is a good defender in the paint, a good shot blocker. So they would just put him in front of Mitchell Robinson like they did. Like they started Taj Gibson a lot last year, and then they also had Bobby Portis, and they had Randall, and they just had a ton of guys in front of him. They had Enes Kanter years ago, but I don't know if that was before. I don't know if that was before they had. Actually, I think that was during the. I don't know. He might have been gone by the time Mitchell Robinson came around, but I'm pretty sure DeAndre Jordan was around when Mitchell Robinson was around, and he was in front. And everyone said that Mitchell Robinson should get the start. So that's what I think about. Kind of what I think about Andre Drummond and the potential suitors for him. So next is rival teams are continuing to monitor the growth of Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons has been a pretty good backup guard to Dame. Dame he's definitely an all-star this year. Probably should have been an all-star starter. There's a lot of people saying that he should have been over Luka because Damian Lillard, his record's better. He's averaging more points, and he's like third in MVP voting. Not voting, but the power ranking for MVP this year. And, excuse me. But All-Star and MVP are kind of two different categories. All-Star is just if you're having a good season, and MVP kind of goes along with, are you an all-around good player with your team success, how many points you're averaging, how much you contribute to winning. It's kind of, and the narrative. So Damian, he has been all alone by himself for years. He is very loyal to the Trailblazers. He's not going anywhere for a while, so that helps him with his MVP standards. He has a very good record. He is clutch in the fourth. But Luka has also been very good. He's been kind of disappointing this year. People thought he would be where Dame is in the MVP voting. Some people thought that it'd be him and Steph in contentions for the MVP. But that hasn't really happened. So I think... this is about Anthony Simons. But Anthony Simons, he has been a pretty good backup guard. He has taken more of the scoring opportunities when Dame is out. Him and Gary Trent look like a good young backcourt. Gary Trent has been hitting a lot of threes. He's like really good in 2K. Hit like just a bunch of threes in that game. He's done that in real life too. Him and Anthony, they kind of, I guess they could be the next Dame and CJ, but that's just because they're both Trailblazers and they're both guards, so that helps with that case. The Sixers have inquiries about the trade availabilities of George Hill and DeLon Wright. I think that The Sixers need to trade Tobias Harris, and even though Tobias Harris he's had a good season, past seasons he hasn't been very good because he's been playing the 3, and now that since they traded Al Horford, he's been playing the 4, and he's been really good at it. But I think that if they want to keep the Embiid and Ben Simmons duo, they need to play Ben at the 4 and get a shooting contributing guard and play Ben off ball in the post so he can kick it out to open shooters from the post, or if they don't double him, just put it in, because he's been really good running the floor. So George Hill would really help that. He was shooting like 50% from 3 last season on the Bucks. They traded him to the Pelicans for Drew Holiday along with Brandon Ingram, and then he got dealt to OKC, which is my team because I'm from Oklahoma. And so he would really help because he's a good defender. He knows where to be. He knows how to be a good defender. So on Wright, I don't really know what he's been doing. He's on the Pistons now. He's been okay. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know much about DeLon Wright. Next is the Pistons, and Blake Griffin have decided that he will sit out until they figure out his playing future. So Draymond Green a couple days ago had a take that it wasn't fair that I'm adjusting my mic. It wasn't fair that people like James Harden got criticized a lot when he publicly wanted to trade. He was very pouty about it. He had a lot to say about the team, maybe undeservingly so, but he was very public about it. And so he got a lot of flack for being unloyal. But what Draymond Green is saying, that teams, that the organization, it's a double standard. If a team trades you, that's just business. But if a player doesn't want to be part of the organization, then he is a snake, he's unloyal. But if a team does the same thing, where they publicly come out and say, we don't want you, we're going to try to trade you, then that's just part of a business. But Blake Griffin wants to be in a situation where he could win. He wants to be a place where he can contribute, and I think he should. He has had too many injuries, and maybe being in a new place would help him. I thought the same thing about Gordon Hayward when he went to the Hornets. People thought he got overpaid, but I thought someone's going to get overpaid. It's the Hornets. It's not a very good trade destination. It's not a good free agency market. So someone was bound to get overpaid. I thought it'd be good for him to get out of a situation where he wasn't doing very good. He kept getting injured in like these freak injuries because he was just standing in the wrong place and a player came down on his foot. But I thought that'd be good for him to get out of a place where he was getting injured and not contributing, being the fifth guy and coming off the bench sometimes. So I think Blake Griffin could go in a place where he can maybe come off the bench. He's been a better three-point shooter. He's been a better contributor. He was an all-star a couple years ago. He basically willed the Pistons to that playoff series against the Bucks. He had his knee injury. He was putting all those bandages on him and icing it just so he could play in the game and help his team try to win. So he's kind of upset about that, but not to my knowledge. He hasn't said anything bad about the team, but the team is just, they have all these young guys. They have Sadiq Bey, Sekou Doumbouya, and Killian Hayes. So they traded Derrick Rose a couple days ago. So now Hayes is getting more minutes. And now They can just play their young guys. Jeremy Grant has been really good as well. I was upset when OKC traded him to Denver for like a second round pick. I think they could have at least gotten like maybe like they probably could have gotten Malik Beasley before they traded him to the Timberwolves, because he was bound for a new contract anyway. They could have just traded him to OKC, but that could have stunted the development of Shea when they got him, or possibly Lou Dort. He's been really good now. So in hindsight, it is probably the better move, but they could have gotten something better than just a second. So now BG, he's been sitting. They are benching him on purpose now, trying to figure out where he can go. So that's been a lot recently. He was a nice he was a big dunker. He's had 0 dunks this year. He's been more of a shooter, more of an off-ball guy, taking guys off the dribble now, but he's just had too many injuries because he was a high flyer in his younger years, just dunking all over everyone, and everyone knew that too. They moved out of the way when Blake jumped up in the air. When he was going for it, when he went for it, everyone knew they had to move out the way. So the Pistons, they just aren't very good this year, and it's not Blake's fault. It's just what it is. Atlanta would want a high first round lottery level pick if they were to move John Collins. John Collins, he wants more money, but Trey's taking up all that money, and then they signed Danilo Gallinari, who should be playing the 4, and they also have Clinton Capella that they traded for. So John has kind of been he's been kind of put out of the rotation a little bit. Not out of the rotation. He was like the 20th pick in the 18 or 17 draft. And I'm trying to remember it all in that draft. And then he was really good for them. He was a big surprise. And then there's just too many around him. He wants more money. He's been a good dunker. He kind of has the same problem as he's not a very shaky shooter. And that's kind of what you need out of your 4. And then they also have Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter. So now Atlanta wants something good for him because he has been good. Well, I don't know what that was. It has been good for them. And now they want something in return. I think they should ask for something more than just a lottery pick, because you're not going to get much of a lottery pick. If you trade for John Collins, I don't think you're going to get a lottery pick. My initial reaction was a lottery pick might be too far-fetched. I think you get a young guy and a first. And I think they just need... I think what they need is maybe a veteran to help. That's kind of what Rondo's there for. To help Trae Young. And now I might need a veteran to maybe help out. I don't know. And maybe a lottery pick. So that's going to do it for NBA Update. Thank you for watching. And make sure you drink water. Peace out.